10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me. Sorry if the intro there was a little louder than I expected. Trying to work the sound volume as we go. So let me take a moment here, and I just want to speak with everyone because we're in a troubling trend right now. It's an old trend. It's something we've seen many times, but I'm truly troubled about this, and I'm upset. I'm upset with Senator Lindsey Graham. I'm upset with President Trump. I'm upset with Democrats. This is something that is going to hurt everyone in America. This is not a positive. This is the wrong path for the nation, I believe, in my opinion. And I have said this for many years, from 2012 going forward. I've been arguing about this. For many people who don't know, I'm a major Second Amendment advocate. I believe in the rights of the individual. I believe in being able to protect yourself. And we're seeing a situation due to emotional manipulation that is going to strip away due process, that is going to harm people across this nation, and is going to significantly affect every single American. I truly believe that. You may disagree. You may think that I'm not quite right, but I want to explain why I'm saying this. And let's start off with the thought that there is a lot of emotional manipulation that is going on right now. Now, obviously, we're talking about gun control. We're talking about mass shootings. We're talking about the events that took place over the last week. We're talking about the Garlic Festival shooting, El Paso, and Dayton, Ohio. Now, a lot of people, you may not notice that, and the memory of the public is media is expecting and hoping that you're not going to remember that there were 3 events. They're hoping that you're not going to think about Chicago, Baltimore, or Detroit, that you're not going to talk about black on black crime and the number of people who've been killed because of that. No, they want to focus on one thing. And if you've noticed, just take a look at the media. Don't believe me. Look at the headlines you see out there. You hear the Democrats, you hear the media, they're talking about El Paso, just El Paso. They're not talking about Garlic Fest, where we had a demented, insane individual that attacked a group of people at a festival for no reason besides of the demented, evil nature of that individual. And then you don't hear anyone talking about Dayton, Ohio, where an individual who is a known, clearly, as the news has been reporting in many news media outlets, credibly noting that this is an individual who supports Elizabeth Warren. This is an individual who supports democratic policies, who supports democratic socialism, even supports gun control, that this maniac was out there and was stopped by police immediately. They don't want to talk about that. Look at the headlines. You're only hearing one thing, El Paso, because El Paso was connected to white supremacy and El Paso was connected to President Trump. Whether that's right or wrong doesn't matter. That's the media. And you have to ask yourself, why are they doing that? Because that is about emotional manipulation. It is the same structure. It is the same pattern that you see after every incident in the United States. We constantly hear from a fringe, especially the fringe of the Democratic Party, not Democrats necessarily. We're talking about progressives. We're talking about liberals, where they consistently go out there and they are talking about one thing, fear. Fear. Be afraid. Be very afraid. Why? Because they want you to do what they say. They want you to react just in the way that they want, to give them more power, to give them more money, to give them more legislation and control so that they can go forward. And we saw this. We saw this with Anthony Brindisi. When Anthony Brindisi came out and made his comments about that he wants to join the Senate to vote on background checks, and that that there are 251 mass shootings in the United States in 2019. This is an absolute patented fear-mongering lie. It is a patented fear-mongering lie. And you don't have to believe me. Look it up from ABC News, look up the AP, look up Northeastern University, and you will see there's been 22. Now, is that more than one? Absolutely. Should that not exist? Absolutely. But when you hear Democrats, and this is a bullet point that was used by Democrats across the nation since the shootings, saying there's 251 incidents, that is a patent absolute lie. It is meant for one purpose, to drive fear into the hearts and minds of Americans so that they will emotionally react and to make sure that they can pass any and every gun control legislation you can think of without bothering to understand what the laws say and what is going to be the consequences, and to give more power to Democrats. That's all they want. That is all that they have interest in. That's what Anthony Brindisi is doing, as well as many other Democrats as well. That's what they're looking to do, is to make sure that when you are thinking about, and when you go to the ballots in 2019, 2020, that you have fear in your heart. That's why they're saying 251, because it is a blatant, absolute lie. It is a proven lie. That is fear-mongering. But you're not seeing that be the end of it. No. Because we also see that Democrats, as reported by Town Hall and many other credible news organizations, Democrats are out there fundraising. They are gathering money for the election. They're concerned about 2019 and 2020. They're not worried about whether you're protected or not. Elizabeth Warren is directly going out and raising money so she can go and have Senator Doug Jones of Alabama and Tina Smith of Minnesota to be reelected. She's looking for money for herself to get to the presidential nomination. Well, it doesn't stop there, because then there's also Kamala Harris. Senator Kamala Harris is out there, and she's raising up money for pro-democratic organizations like Representative Gabby Giffords' PAC, the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence, and Moms Demand Action for Guns in America. These are all organizations that have only one purpose: to take away your rights and to empower the fringe Democrats. We're talking about progressives. We're talking about liberals. We're talking about people like Citizen Action. We're talking about people like Progressive Leaders of Tomorrow, or otherwise known as PLOT. We're talking about Black Lives Matters and Antifa. That's who they are supporting. That's what they're trying to move forward. And they're trying to take away your rights. This is what the Democratic Party is looking for. They're looking for emotional manipulation by fear. And the sad thing is, the very, very sad thing, and by the way, it's not limited to just Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren, who are Democratic hopefuls. And I see the internet is acting up again. It looks like someone doesn't like me talking about this. And that's probably Facebook, maybe Turner Broadcasting again. By the way, I won in my case of them trying to steal my content. But no, this is also something that's being done by the Democratic National Committee. They're out there fundraising, looking to get money to chip away because they're worried about an election. And again, that article is from Town Hall, and you can look it up yourself. And the title of the article, by the way, is Democrats Are Fundraising Off El Paso Dayton Shootings. And that was published on August 5th of 2019. The prior article that I had mentioned with Anthony Brindisi, which showed up in the Rome Sentinel, is Brindisi joins call for Senate vote on gun background checks bill, which was published on August 5th of 2019. Today is August 7th. But here's the problem. Here's the big problem. It's not limited to these individuals. It's not limited to the fear-mongering of Democrats. It's not limited to they're trying to use emotions to manipulate people to pass bills or to raise money so that they can have more power and you can have less freedom. It's not limited to that, because now we see that there are many others, including, and very upsettingly, Republicans like Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham is pushing red flag legislation. And he's doing this because he's falling victim to the idea that the media have put out there, that if you just pass one more law, if you just pass an extra law, criminals will suddenly stop being violent, that crime will suddenly stop, that mass shootings will no longer exist if we just pass one more law. And that's just a complete and absolute lie. It doesn't work. We have 22,000 local, state, and federal laws against that affect gun ownership, firearms, and restrictions, whether it's on ammo, on the firearms themselves, legal law-abiding gun owners across America. This already exists. And another law isn't going to help. We already have a law against murder. It's called murder in the first degree, and in the second degree, and in the third degree. We already have laws against hate crimes, which is duplication of law, if you ask me, but that's besides the point. We have these laws in place already. These crimes are crimes already. We're not making people safer. If we were, when President Obama in 2014, as I recall, came out and said, hey, I'm going to put out 32 executive orders to restrict firearms, it would have worked if that's all it took, except the week after the Naval Yard shooting occurred, because laws don't stop evil, vile, criminal, deranged individuals. Let's get that straight. But fear-mongering, it does make people, when you say things like this, when you support red flag legislation, then you will make people feel like they're better off. And those people will go to sleep at night thinking they're safer until facts prove them wrong. That's not going to make you safer. We've seen individuals go out there and they have used not just firearms. Remember, there was the Islamberg plot where we had kids who were out there and they were trying to, and this is yet another example, and I covered this, and I just want to make sure that I show you this. You know, this was back in, I wrote the article at the Voss Political Commentary site. You can go see it yourself, called New York State Gun Law versus Islamberg Bombing Plot. And that was published on January 25th of this year. And guess what? We have 4 kids who are under the age of 20 that were making bombs. Would red flag legislation have stopped them? No. Would any other form of law stop them? No. They broke all the laws. They were doing illegal actions. And that didn't prevent them from trying to make bombs, which is patently and absolutely illegal since 1934 with the National Firearms Act. And they were doing it anyway. So that didn't make anyone safer. And guess what? They were stopped not because of red flag laws, not because of gun control. They were stopped because people actually took action. And the existing laws were more than enough to allow police to intervene. That's what we need. Not emotional manipulation, enforcement of the laws that exist already. We already have the laws we need. We don't need more restriction. We need more enforcement. What we need is to get to the root of the problem, not more laws that give a particular partisan party more power and the public less freedom, because that never works out well. Take a look at North Korea, look at China, look at Soviet Union. Look at Venezuela. Can I make it any more apparent for you? Venezuela, the very place that Bernie Sanders has been promoting for so many years, said America has to become more like that. The place that did exactly what the anti-gun control advocates are supporting, which is to remove the right of citizens to be able to have their own, to have a firearm to defend themselves. And once they lost their right to have firearms in 2012, guess what? Last year, in 2017, 2018, over 5,000 Venezuelans were killed by their government because they can't defend themselves. And they are leaving that nation en masse because their government is killing them, because the government is the only one with firearms. And I'm sorry, I don't trust the government that much. Not in the United States, not anywhere in the world, because governments are corrupt. And the more power they have, the more corrupt they become. It's an old saying, and it's always true. You know, when you think about this, Lindsey Graham, he's out there, he's saying, well, we need more firearms. And I opposed this when he first suggested this back in, when did he do that? And I want to make sure I get this right because where is it? I thought I had it. Well, I know I had opposed this. Lindsey Graham, this is not the first time that he's come out and he said this, but one of the things that you got to keep in mind with this emotional manipulation, you keep getting this promise, you're going to be safer. All you need to do is pass one more law. You know what I noticed that's real interesting? And you can go to motherjones.com and see this. Their article, Could Red Flag Laws Prevent the Next Massacre? That's the title of their article. It was done 17 hours ago on August, that would have been August 6th. Guess what? They don't answer the question. No one ever answers. None of the proponents that want to take away the firearms from you, they never answer the question, will this law make you safer? No, they give you the illusion that you're going to be safe. Don't worry, we're going to pass this law and you'll be okay. We promise. And then they let it go. Because they never mention this stuff when people aren't emotionally damaged. They never talk about gun control and try and pass these laws when everyone is just having a good old day. They only talk about this after a national tragedy, something that's been blasted across the media when it's been targeted and has the greatest impact. And it's always within 2 days, 24 hours, usually 24 hours, 48 hours after an emotion tragedy. They go out, they raise more money, they try and get their people elected, and they come out and they make you promises that never come true. The New York SAFE Act was supposed to make people safer. Gun crime is up. Murder is up since that time. Okay? You look at California, has red flag laws, has had them for many years. We still had San Bernardino. We still had Thousand Oaks shooting. You look at everywhere. You look at California, Connecticut. You look at Indiana, where the studies have been done. And I know the studies have been done because I have read the studies. In fact, I did a very elaborate over 8,000 word comprehensive review, took 6 months to do, which I published in August of 2018. And I provided to the New York State Legislature, the New York State Senate to be exact, along with the Liberty First Foundation, which has over 20,000 members across the United States. And I put out there gun red flag laws do and how they affect the public. And let me be clear, what's going to happen, and I see the internet is trying to cut me off again, because I'm coming up to the big point here. The big point is, what is the result of over 150 sources, over 6 months of research, speaking to the state of Connecticut, Indiana, reading the actual research that has been done on the effect of red flag laws? Absolutely nothing. There is no proof. There is no even suggestion that you're going to be any safer. And in fact, what you do see, and the internet keeps cutting me off here, they don't view the conclusion here. Someone in the internet doesn't want me to say this. The conclusion that we find is, the only thing that happens is you lose more rights. More Americans lose their rights than any American is protected. It doesn't save people from suicide. It doesn't save people from mass shootings. It doesn't save people from gun violence because it doesn't address the root problem. And if you spend 6 months looking over 150 sources, speaking to the state of Connecticut, Indiana, all the states, there are 17 states with gun red flag legislation. If you go and look at the data from the FBI and the CDC, if you do all the things, get the FOIA reports that I've done, you'll find out none of this is going to make you safer. It's not going to help you. But it will be emotional manipulation to take your money to promote a partisan outlook. And Lindsey Graham is falling into that trap. Lindsey Graham is falling into the politics of that. And not only Lindsey Graham, but President Trump is falling into that trap. Because the emotions are being manipulated by the media and social media so much that you have to come out and say, well, no, I'm going to try and do something. This will make the public safe. This is the answer. Do you know what red flags will actually do? After all my research, do you know what I know what red flags will do? Red flags will take away children from those who are affected. If you have kids and there is a red flag, in every state there is a child protection unit. And that means that they have to be notified. And if the government has to take away your property by force without a crime ever being committed, then that home is too dangerous for your children to be in. And as a consequence, they must take your children as well. So you'll be fighting not only to get back your property, your good name, and possibly lose your job, you're going to lose your family. Oh, but they don't want to talk about the consequences of red flag legislation. They don't want to talk about the fact that this destroys due process. Because you have never, anyone who is affected by a red flag legislation, you are not ever charged with a crime. There is no crime. It's someone's feeling. Someone feels like you might be a danger, and therefore the government uses its full force to take away your property and your rights, which includes your family as a consequence. That's what red flags do. Do they make you safer? No, because illegal criminals doing an illegal use of a firearm are not affected. They don't care. And the deranged and crazy don't appreciate laws. They don't care. This doesn't make you safer. But this gives you the opportunity that if you don't like your neighbor and you want to ruin your neighbor's life, their reputation, their work, then you can do that by saying there's a red flag legislation. In New York State, as an example, there is a piece of legislation, the red flag laws that were passed this year. You know what it takes to get a red flag? And someone may do this against me. I'm really fearful because back in 2012, December of 2012, I did a video and an article, Gun Restriction Legislation, Does It Really Help? Okay, and this was before Governor Cuomo forced through the New York SAFE Act. And in that, I highlighted why the SAFE Act will not make people safer. And in that conversation, I happened to show that a shotgun. And I explained why that shotgun is no more dangerous than a hammer, a wrench, a steak knife. And someone may see that. And they may have, and because they see that, and they see that I support the Second Amendment, they can go to New York State and they can ask New York State, a judge, to come and try and invade my home, take my property, and to try and destroy my reputation because someone doesn't feel like they like what I had to say. And there's nothing that would stop them. Because the courts would say, well, you know what? There is social media out there. Of course he's violent. Of course he's dangerous. Let's take his property. Not that I've ever been committed of a crime. Not that any crime is suggested. But just because someone doesn't like it. That's what red flags are. That's the loss of due process. Because I wouldn't be able to go to court and face that judge and face that accuser and say, show me your proof. Prove this allegation against me. That isn't how red flags work. You don't get told that this is happening. You only find out when the police show up at your door with a warrant, breaking your door down at normally between 5 and 8 a.m. in the morning. And that's why a man in Maryland was killed in 2018 because he thought the people breaking down his door were robbers. He went to get his firearm to defend himself and wound up getting killed by the police because of that red flag legislation. And that will happen again. And it's never a crime being committed. You have no due process. You don't get to face your accusers. They don't have to provide proof in a court that shows that this is likely. They just have to have a feeling. And then they can take your property, and then they can take your children. This is a fact. I've talked to many lawyers about this. I've talked to legislators like Assemblywoman Donna Lapardo, like Assemblyman Clifford Crouch. I've spoken to State Senator Fred Akshar and many other members of New York State legislature about this, as well as many lawyers. And every single one of them confirm that everything I've just said to you is correct. These are consequences of the law. And yet they're willing to vote for it, some of them, and to allow this to happen. You're not going to be safer. And President Trump, for whatever his reason, I don't know what it is wrong. Because he's supporting this very same legislation that will destroy due process and will harm you. And its only true purpose It's ultimately, its only real purpose is to be able to get votes and money for Democrats so that they can maintain more power. That's it. Like Elizabeth Warren, like Kamala Harris, like Anthony Brindisi, who is using this to spread lies, because it's a lie. There have not been 251 mass shootings this year. That is a fact. He's wrong. And he's out there promoting false information. And he knows he has an election in 2020, and he's afraid that he's going to lose because he has no standing. And he's not the only one. Maybe this is a bit of a rant. I hope you look into some of the... I have many links that I'm going to include here. I've been talking about the Second Amendment and the gun control issue for over a decade. I have reports out there with all the data of every single source. And as I said, if you check it out, you'll see, especially in my report on the red flag legislation, which I did in 2018, which contains over 150 different sources. 150 different sources on it. Please check them out. All credible sources, every single one of them. And you can check them out and see exactly what's in there. And I tell you, at the end of the day, when you get done, you'll agree with me. This is wrong. This will not make you safer. This is you being emotionally manipulated. And we need to call it out. And President Trump is wrong for supporting this. And Lindsey Graham is wrong for supporting this. Because it will not make people safer. It will take away more of their rights. It will destroy due process. It will separate families. It may cause more people to be killed by police acting with the full force of government behind them. But you're not going to be any safer. It's not going to stop another garlic festival. It's not going to stop another Dayton, Ohio. It's not going to stop another San Bernardino or Fort Hood shooting. It's not going to stop them. It's not going to stop another Orlando, Florida shooting. It's not going to stop them because the crazy, the deranged, the terrorist, they're going to continue to do what they do because they don't care about laws. And that's the thing we need to remember. Not the fear, the reality. And one thing that I'll end this with, in every single case, you know what's the best thing that happens? Someone else shows up with a firearm and stops the incident. In Garlic Festival, you know why he stopped shooting? Do you know why so few, as horrible as it was, why weren't there more people who were killed? Because he was going for more people. Because police officers got on the scene and started engaging him. And then as a coward, he killed himself. In Dayton, what stopped him from continuing to kill people? Because police officers got on the scene and engaged him. And he was shot dead. What happened in El Paso? It took 6 minutes for police officers to engage with the shooter. And the shooter stopped, some reports say because he ran out of bullets. It took 20 minutes for that incident to stop. How many lives would have been saved if just one other person with a firearm showed up and engaged him? We've seen it at churches. We've seen it over and over again. When the thing that stops a mass shooter is someone else with a firearm that is able to engage them, then it stops. It doesn't stop before that. Think about that. Think about that when you think about all these people fear-mongering, promising you that one more law, the 22,001 new law on gun control is going to make you safer than the other 22,000 laws before it over the last 4 decades. When they say that to you, think about that for a second, and then think about every single one of these incidents stop because someone shows up with another firearm to protect the innocent. And which one do you think is a better idea to support? Think about this. If there is no due process, who's going to protect you from the government? Who's going to protect you from people who just don't like you? Yeah, you can give your money to Elizabeth Warren on this issue, to the Brady campaign, to Kamala Harris, to Anthony Brindisi, and say, hey, go and protect me. And they won't. But they'll take your money. They'll take your vote. But you're not going to be any safer. Think about that. And let me know what you think. Maybe you think I got something wrong. Maybe you think my sources are incomplete. Please, let me know. Do you think President Trump is right to say that we need more red flag laws? Do you know what a red flag law is? Do you know what a red flag law does? Do you think I don't understand it? Did I misunderstand something about the function of the red flag laws? Check out my sources. Let me know what you think, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.